A shot rings out. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, falls in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. The assassination, while momentarily shocking, sparks a chain of events that ultimately plunges Europe into World War I. The death of Franz Ferdinand wasn't just the tragic end of a royal figure. It was a catalyst for one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. It set off a rapid series of events, marking the beginning of the war that would change the world forever. But what if this shot had missed? Could the world have avoided the bloodshed of World War I? Or would the tensions of Europe have inevitably exploded in another way? Let's take a deep dive into what really happened and explore the what-ifs that could have changed history. When the Archduke and his wife Sophie were killed that fateful day, the political landscape of Europe was already on edge. The assassination took place in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, a region recently annexed by Austria-Hungary. Serbia, where the assassins were believed to have come from, was a long-standing rival of Austria-Hungary. But the murder wasn't just an isolated event. It was a part of a larger power struggle between empires and nations. Austria-Hungary, humiliated and enraged by the assassination of their future emperor, saw it as an affront not only to the royal family, but to the integrity of the empire itself. But this was no ordinary political scandal. It was the spark that would light the powder keg of Europe. Austria-Hungary demanded retribution. Serbia, backed by Russia, refused to bow to their demands, setting the stage for a much broader conflict. What if the Archduke had survived? Would Austria-Hungary still have been so determined to punish Serbia? Or would the assassination have been written off as a political crime without wider consequences? What if Franz Ferdinand, a man known for his moderate stance, had been able to use his influence to avoid war? Would there still have been a confrontation, or could tensions have simmered down? The assassination didn't just impact Austria-Hungary and Serbia. This was a time when European powers were locked in a web of alliances, where any conflict could quickly spiral out of control. Austria-Hungary's decision to declare war on Serbia on July 28, 1914, set off a cascade of events. Russia, allied with Serbia, immediately mobilized its forces in defense of their Slavic brethren. Germany, in turn, pledged its support to Austria-Hungary, and the war began to spread across the continent. France, bound by its own alliance with Russia, found itself dragged into the conflict. Britain, who had a treaty with Belgium and was wary of Germany's growing power, also declared war. But what if this network of alliances had been different? If Franz Ferdinand had lived, would the alliances have been enough to prevent escalation? Or would the great powers of Europe have found another reason to clash? Could the war have been avoided? Or was it simply a matter of time before tensions led to conflict? Before the assassination, Europe was a volatile mixture of nationalism, militarism, and imperialism. Major empires like Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Russia were in competition with one another, each seeking to expand their influence and protect their interests. The Balkans, often referred to as the powder keg of Europe, was a hotbed of ethnic tensions and nationalist uprisings. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand didn't occur in a vacuum. It was the result of years of political instability in this region. If Franz Ferdinand had survived, would Austria-Hungary have been able to stabilize the region? Or would nationalism have continued to bubble under the surface? Could the tensions between Serbia and Austria-Hungary have been resolved diplomatically without the assassination? Or was a war inevitable given the growing power of nationalism in the Balkans? Let's step into the realm of what if. Imagine if Franz Ferdinand's car had not taken that fateful turn in Sarajevo. If the assassin had missed, would the political and military situation have been diffused? Or was war simply a matter of time? Would Austria-Hungary have still sought revenge against Serbia? Or would cooler heads have prevailed? What if Germany had not supported Austria-Hungary so fervently? Would Russia have mobilized so quickly, or would they have been more cautious without the looming threat from Germany? And what if Britain had not been so committed to its alliance with France and Russia? Would World War I have still occurred, but in a different form, perhaps with a different set of powers involved? Now, let's think even bigger. World War I didn't just end in 1918, it set the stage for the next great conflict. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, placed the blame for the war squarely on Germany, punishing the nation with crippling reparations. This led to massive economic instability in Germany, which eventually allowed Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party to rise to power. If World War I hadn't happened, or if it had been a shorter, less devastating conflict, could World War II have been avoided? Would the Treaty of Versailles have been signed at all? Could the economic devastation that allowed Nazi Germany to rise have been avoided? Could Hitler have been stopped, or would he have found a different path to power without the legacy of World War I? In the aftermath of World War I, Europe was a fractured and devastated continent. Millions had died, and the political map of the world was forever altered. New nations were formed, old empires collapsed, and the world was left to pick up the pieces. But what if this global conflict had never occurred? Would Europe have been able to avoid the rise of totalitarian regimes in the 1920s and 1930s? Would the geopolitical landscape have looked vastly different? Would the United States have become the world's dominant superpower without the shaping influence of the First World War? Now, let's fast forward to today. What would the world look like if World War I had never happened? Would Europe have remained the center of global politics, or would a different power have emerged to take the lead? How would the United States' role in the world have changed if it hadn't been so deeply involved in the war? Would the balance of power have remained stable, or would tensions have found another way to manifest? The legacy of World War I is still with us today in the borders, alliances, and political struggles that shape our world. All of this, the rise of new empires, the reshaping of nations, the rise of totalitarianism, could have been avoided with a single miss. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand set into motion a series of events that reshaped the world. What would the world look like today if that shot had missed?